All right, ARCA at New Texas. So these are my settings. This is like the standard settings that I use for any mile and a half in ARCA. I used to do minus 15 on steering offset, but now I do minus 12 because that seems a little bit more actually straight. But again, those steering settings are comfort based. Okay, so we are going to make this a second lap just because you can't really carry enough speed for the first lap. And you need quite a bit of heat in the tires for 1 and 2 anyways, because you're going to be asking a lot from it. So what we're going to be focusing on today for basically the entire segment, not just qualifying, but long run 2, is turns 1 and 2. I'll show you real quick here, because all we have to worry about on this first lap is not overheating our tires. It's very easy to think that you can just partial throttle through the corner, but it's actually a lot faster if you do a little brake tap to get to the bottom. It'll work better on the hotter tires, but you can't really get to that bottom early enough if you don't brake tap. Okay, so setting up for the actual hot lap here, I like setting up about a lane off the wall. It tends to get a little bit loose, but it's not too bad. Like, you can be pretty easy, full throttle, carries the speed, all that fun stuff. So I'm going to try to get my car turned down really early and get a little brake tap here. I'm going to roll the white line and then full throttle. You really want to make sure that you stick to that bottom for a little bit, or else you're going to push way up the track. Then 3 and 4, we can try to full throttle. Sometimes I do a little bit of a lift on entry, and then just make sure that it doesn't kick out the right rear. And that's a pretty decent lap. Okay, let's go take a look at that. So 3 and 4 is actually deceptively hard on qual lap if you're trying to full throttle it. 1 and 2 is a little bit tricky as well. So notice here how when I come back up to the wall after the quad oval, immediately I already start turning. Very common trap of Texas is to get up to this wall, try to catch your bearings a little bit, and then miss corner entry because you're too late. If it's a good rhythm thing to go quad oval, immediately turn. Like, you almost want that second part of the quad oval to be an extension of the corner. Just make it all one really long corner. So you see how I'm lined up with where I want to go as opposed to being late where our nose is pointed anywhere but that. So I use that. I trail out of the throttle a little bit smoothly, and then I transition to a tiny brake tap. Look at that, 10%. You could probably get away with no trail brake at all, but this just helps you get a little bit more rotation, which allows you to get back on the throttle that bit earlier. If you're struggling with the brake, though, I suggest starting by using no brake and just coasting for that little bit, and then adding the brake back into it so that you can see the difference between a brake that's slowing you down and a brake that's rotating you. So my brake is rotating me. I pick up the throttle about a half lane up from the bottom because then at that point I can throttle through the corner. And then the exit of 2 is so wide that it looks like I'm sliding up early here, but that's just how wide Texas 2 is. You can just throttle up. Let's take a look at that one more time, all the way through. We'll start at the quad oval because honestly that's important too. So quad oval. Wall immediately turn, nose pointed at the white line, brake tap, throttle through the white line, let the car slide up after about a second of being on the white line. And then you can just full throttle the rest of the corner. Okay, 3 and 4 pretty self-explanatory. You can full throttle it. It's going to be a bit of a rodeo though. If you're going to bail out of the throttle, like I did about 10% there, do it on this bump right here. You see that? Oh. Right there, that bump. If you're going to bail out of the throttle, do it right over that bump because the loosest part, the most hard to control part of that full throttle is going to be through that bump. So at the very least, be ready for that bump because that's what's going to send you. And then just try to keep that grip slip angle to where your right rear is not kicking out. So you see I'm sliding up the track a little bit because I feel like if I turn the wheel anymore, I'm going to lose the rear. So I just let the car come up as it wants to. Ideally, we would want it on the bottom, but that's not always going to be the case. Especially for hot lap, you just got to make do with what you got. But yeah, keep in mind that bump. That's the big thing in 3 and 4. All right, long run. I'm going to show you a different line in 1 and 2 because I like running a different line from hot lap. I call it the Larry line for Larry Pace because he was the one that kind of showed me this line a long time ago. I don't know if it was at Texas specifically, but it was at one of these ARCA 1.5 miles, and it's for when you really are at an ARCA track that can only burn the right front. The right rear kind of doesn't do much, so you have to force it. So what we're going to be doing here is instead of tracking up all the way up to the wall, I'm going to stay a little bit low and then enter into the corner a little bit easy, keep the car down there, and then slide up all the same. Now the car should be, you see how the car's getting loose right there? I kind of kept the throttle in to kind of exaggerate it, but that's how we force that car on the right rear. If we take that wide angle into the corner, the car's going to land on the right front. It's going to take a lot more to get on the right rear. So let's do that again. And I didn't talk about 3 and 4 that time. So that bump that we were talking about, I just let out even more over it. So don't track all the way out. Ease it, little brake tap onto the white, and then just let it come up the track for the rest of the corner on the right rear. We lose a little less than 2/10 over our like screamer hot lap line, but that screamer hot lap line is only going to work for like a couple laps before it equalizes. And so this is about where I like to be, about 3/10 off of my screamer hot lap line. That's about a good beginning race run. So stay off the wall, ease it into the white line, pick up the throttle aggressive onto the right rear. Really good corner. And then a little bit of an ease off there so that we can get it back on the white. You can full throttle it if you're brave enough, but one slip and you just heat up your tires for minimal gain. Okay. Keep it shallow, ease it into the white line, and then drive the right rear. Notice my steering wheel barely moves to the left that entire corner. That's how you know that we're taking care of that right front on a track that otherwise would shred the right front. And the best part about Texas is that you are rewarded by saving your right front because 3 and 4 is essentially just a tire wear test. You can't really do anything in 3 and 4 besides lifting a little bit and maybe trying to full throttle it. So your limiting factor is your tire wear. So yeah, honestly, very, very simple. I kind of like Texas because it's easy to practice. You know when you're getting on the right rear. And you don't always want to get on the right rear in every car, every situation. I think I used to preach about that a little too much. But in this ARCA car, at this combo, you want to be on that right rear as much as possible. Hopefully we have pretty even tire wear, because even though you kind of heard that we were on the right rear for a lot of the turn 1 and 2 corners, I promise you that right front is still taking a beating just because of the nature of this setup. Yeah, so we're still even though we were like under, or we were trying our hardest to put the car on the right rear. So that's how important it is to try to keep the loads balanced, or even trying to get it on the right rear. But other than that, thank you all for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day. I hope to see you all on the track.